Hi, hi everyone. Hello, hi, hi, hello, hi. So, good evening everyone. Hiteshi this side, the host for today's session. Team Guide IAS extends you all a very hearty welcome. We hope you all are doing great, enjoying the chilly winter with your not so warm books. Yeah? So, my dear friends, today we have in store for you a very informative session on main strategy for UPSC 2021. And for this, we will be guided by a very inspiring personality. So, with all the joy in your hearts, let's connect with IPS Raghav Jain AIR 127. Sir will be connecting with us shortly. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
I am doing great, sir. What about you?
I'm also doing great. Finally, some holidays before to the next journey.
Yeah, that's cool. So, welcome to Guide IS. It's an
Thank
immense
you.
pleasure. It's an
Thank you so
immense
much, ma'am,
pleasure
for
to have you
inviting
here,
me on.
sir.
Yes, of
Thank
course.
you
The
so
pleasure
much,
is
sir,
all
for
mine. The
joining
pleasure
with
is all
us.
mine, honestly.
Thank you so much, sir. So, before we come to the questions, let me acquaint our viewers with your journey so far. Shall I?
Yes, sure, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. So, guys, Mr. Jan is an IPS officer with an All India rank 127. He acquired this prestigious position in his third attempt in 2019. He hails from Ludhiana and has his graduation in commerce and master's in business administration. And as we say, the comeback is always stronger than the setback. So here he is with us, believing consistency, patience, and smartness to be the virtues of cracking this exam. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for such a nice introduction. And I
It's
hope
a
I'm able
pleasure, sir.
actually genuinely able to contribute so that all the future candidates, might get some experience of what to do or what not to do. As I've myself seen how things can be so faulty in this process. So I hope that I'm able to extend some help to all of you.
Definitely, sir. So let's begin with the questions.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, the first one, from what age did you aspire to be a civil servant and who has been your inspiration?
Honestly, ma'am, from very initial, my goal was not to become an IAS or an IPS. Since I belong to a business family, so my agenda was always in that direction. But when you gradually aspire and you grow and you know what you want to do by yourself, so while I was doing MBA, so I got to know that money is not my scene. So that was the first time I felt like I need to go beyond such, business outlook and business aspects. And that was the first time when I thought ki I should go for civil services. And talking about the inspiration, there are many inspirations. Honestly, when you see other people working so hard for the society, like I have many examples, I can't name the list. Plus, obviously, you get the family support when you see how hard work they actually put in this process also. It's not about the candidate, but it's about the family also. And plus, obviously, your friends and inspiration. There are many different sources. But yeah, actual inspiration is yourself only, honestly, because it is such a difficult process. Till the time you push yourself to the extreme, you are not able to achieve this. So this is something which takes a lot of time, takes a lot of perseverance.
That's an inspiring thought, sir. So, next, sir, as we know, there are many success stories. In fact, we are bombarded with such stories every minute. But there's hardly anyone who shares the story of his failure. So, as you have faced it twice, so what were your drawbacks that held you, and how did you overcome them?
Honestly, ma'am, during my first attempt, I was able to clear prelims, but not the mains. So since it was my first attempt, so I was like, okay, this takes time. So it was not so much painful for me. But when it came to second attempt, I was not able to clear prelims also. So that was quite disheartening actually because I realized that I was going backwards rather than going forward. So at that point of time, you have double thoughts whether I'm capable, whether I should go for next attempt. You know, all the mixed opinions from society, family, oh, you should drop it, you should go for something else. But once you overcome these things and you realize what were your faults and the drawbacks in the previous process, so those failures actually help you to learn what were your mistakes and what are the things that you need to carry. For example, in 2018 prelims, I realized I was going for so much of information that ultimately came out to be information overload for me. And then in 2019, I came out with a strategy that I should read one book 10 times rather than going for 10 different books. So that was the strategy which actually helped me a lot. And this should be actually adopted by many of the students because there is a many much information overload in the market. There are different source materials, and there is a tendency amongst the candidates to go for every source because there is a fear of missing out the topics. Okay, I have not missed this, I have missed that. So you need to realize in prelims also you don't have to crack 200 out of 200. 110 will also get you through the process. So that's the main agenda, and be pragmatic about the process, which helps you out in the end.
Yeah, so smart preparation is the key.
Yeah, actually, in the end, you need to just trust your study material and don't go for different sources because there are n number of sources, many institutes in, especially in Delhi region when we talk about, and you can't learn everything. So ultimately, you have to choose one specific book, read that book again and again, and you will be able to clear the prelims out of that book only. I can guarantee that if you trust your study material at all.
Thank you, sir. So moving on, so when to begin with answer writing, and please share with us the format of answer writing as we have beginners too in our list.
So it depends at what process you are at the preparation. For example, if you have sufficient time and you have sufficient time for the prelims examination, for example, currently it is going December, so you can practice answer writing at such point of time for 1 or 2 odd months. Like you can practice it by yourself. Like you can get the questions from the internet or the previous year question papers from the UPSC and practice by yourself just to get into the note of it. So how you can speed up the things, but eventually, what will help you in answer writing is that I myself experience was I started answer writing after the prelims was over, because over the period of time there are many things which are changing in the country, and if we talk about current affairs also, there is a very much high upgradation. So starting after prelims gives you an advantage that you are updated with the latest information, and that should be the time when you actually generally start the answer writing seriously. But if you have sufficient time before the prelims also, then you can do that. But once the prelims is done, don't wait for the results. Go for the very next day because there is a tendency. Okay, we'll wait for the results. That 30-day period is very crucial for every candidate. And if we start from the very first day, it will give you a forefront start as vis-a-vis the other students. So this is something we should be care about. And talking about the strategy of answer writing, it should be like, okay, while we are learning so much, the content of all the candidates has to be almost on same par level. Like we'd say it na, like 19-21 ka farak. So in that sense, we can say what matters at the end is the presentation. And honestly, when I was not able to clear the mains 2017, I was only focusing on the content and not the presentation part. What made the difference in 2019 was the presentation factor. For example, if you are providing for the question is asking about the causes of ABC thing. So what you can do instead of writing in paragraph forms, you can use the bullet and numbering system, or you can make a flow chart for the same. So what it makes the work of the examiner relatively easy, and that half marker in every question can fetch a lot of difference. For example, there are four GS subjects, 80 odd questions in all the GS subjects, and half marker means 40 mark difference, and 40 mark in civil services is a huge gap. So focus on presentation, go for diagrams, flow charts, and what you can do is that you can give contemporary examples. But we are in a process of writing generic answers a lot, and you should focus on contemporary things. For example, you can make a list of all the statistics which are happening in the country. Pick 15 to 20 odd topics, be it women, infrastructure, economy, banking, health, education, and many other sectors which are common. And these all statistics can be used in various aspects. For example, in paper one, we can use them in society. Paper two, we can use them in governance. Paper three, obviously, we can use them in economic aspects. Paper for ethics, and most importantly, we can use them in essay. In essay also, I would like to say, like, whatever point you are giving, give statistics for the same. Don't go for generic things. The difference between an essay of scoring 120 marks and 135 to 140 marks is the difference when you give relatively examples rather than going for generic statements. So if you do the homework before in hand making statistics, and so you can make statistics, PM awards of excellence, some recent commissions which have been set up regarding that topic, and for example, many past historic practices which were there. And these are the certain things, if you prepare in advance, it will fetch you good marks in every question.
So being creative and adding some specific
Yeah,
knowledge.
value addition is the, yeah, you can say key factor.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. So we would like to welcome Aditya Bansal sir and Darpan Aluwalia sir. They have also joined us. Thank you so much for joining with us. So
Okay, that's
next,
interesting to hear.
yeah. So next, essay writing, though simple and scoring, but due to complexity of the subject, aspirants tend to lose their marks. So how to go about it? Though you have explained a bit, but just details. Also, please share some strategy or some good tips regarding this.
Yeah. First, about the complexity, I would say, like, try to attempt as many questions as possible. For what is happening like these is, like, if there are 20 questions in one GS paper, you can fetch good marks in 16 odd questions. But if you are able to attempt 18 or 19 odd questions, you will be able to get one or half mark extra in those extra questions, which we tend to drop out because we think we don't know anything about that question. So I'll suggest, even if you know a brief statement about the question, attempt for that question. So there is a general tendency to avoid those questions and to utilize that time in other questions which we know very well. But what will happen? You can score 6.5 marks rather than 6 in those questions. But if you attempt a bit of the unknown questions, you might get 1.5, 2 marker. So you have to, fight for every half marker or 1 marker in this process, and this becomes very crucial when it comes to complexity of the questions. And yes, one more thing, when I'll say, like, if you are not able to answer the question exactly, then give way forward for the same. So way forward is something which is very crucial in every question, because what is happening these days, where we have a very limited time. For example, we generally get 7 minutes for 10 marker and 9 minutes for 15 marker question. So what we are like in a habit, like we'll start with a very good introduction, very good main body, and then we will realize that time is running out. So what we'll skip the conclusion part. And this is something actually I worked upon. I made myself clear that what will happen, I'll skip the main body thing, but I'll definitely give a conclusion. What I mean by conclusion is not the summary of the main body. What I mean by conclusion is to way forward and how the things should expect in future, and what are your opinions or your own suggestions about the question which has been asked. So if you're getting short of time, just make a flowchart about the way forward, 4 directions, and just give short 2 to 3 word suggestions for the same. So way forward is very important, especially in those questions where your main body content was not up to the mark. So this is something which is kind of a cheat code, because it will give that the question has been ended appropriately to some extent.
Yeah.
So this is one thing which candidates can focus upon. And second is, as I told earlier, also value addition. So being generic is not the solution for every question, because those students who have cleared prelims have sufficient amount of knowledge to give generic answers in one way or the another. So if you want to excel vis-a-vis the others, you have to value add it to your material, and that can be done through various statistics. Again, I will mention PM awards of excellence, commissions which have been set up, and Supreme Court judgments recently given related to the topic, whatever the case is. So these, if you prepare homeworks for 15 to 20 odd topics, you will definitely be able to use that. For example, I can say I prepared previous hand statistics and commissions for health and education, and luckily I got essay for the same, primary health and education. So what I would did, I will just fill on the essay with all those statistics, all those value additions, and ultimately I was able to score good. And in case the other essay falls short of your expectations, you are able to recover to some extent, because these days what is happening, one is totally philosophical or ethical essay, and students are able to excel in those essays to that level. So that, since I can say, you should prepare some
Okay.
previously in hand of 2 to 3 days can fetch you actually 20-25 marks in the mains paper.
Yeah, that's going to be really helpful. Next, what is the right strategy for GS paper 1 and how to cover society and world history for it?
Again, GS paper one, as I told, like obviously in GS paper one, questions are very much specific, and you are not able to give conclusions because there is no way forward in geography or history questions particularly. So what we can do is that again you can answer those questions in the form of flowcharts or bullets and numbering and make the job of examiner easy. So my study was in whichever question there was a mere possibility of making a flowchart, I used to go for it because I don't want to write in paragraph forms because there are two disadvantages. First is that paragraph forms takes more words, takes more time relatively to the bullet points, and secondly, it makes the job of the examiner a bit difficult to find out the crux of the point. So if you're writing in bullets, you will be writing in point to point, and definitely it will fetch you half or 1 marker extra. And talking about the societal and world history questions, for world history, I'll say the syllabus is too huge. I know that, and there is generally only one question, or even not even a single question at times. So
Hmm.
you can refer to the previous year questions when it comes to world history. Don't go in too much detail, I'll suggest, because ultimately maximum one question is asked, and that too you can score 4 to 5 marks. So relatively, you can score that much number in some other arena by investing that much time and energy. So go for those topics which are popular. For example, French Revolution, Russian Revolution, both the world wars and German unification, Italy unification, and decolonization topics. So these are certain topics which are important and have been surround or industrial revolution. Sorry, I skipped that. So these are the only topics which have been asked previously, and they are just revolving around these topics only. So if you are able to listen such topics nicely in the class, that will solve the purpose. And I'll suggest not to go in too much detail because there is no end to the world history. So this is one thing regarding the world history. And second, again, so societal aspect, I'll suggest that again, what you have done the previous homework I have talked about, if you'll work on that, you will be able to attempt the societal questions. Plus, again, the way forward and conclusion is very much important because societal questions are generally about the causes and the challenges which is going around in the society at contemporary times. And if you are able to give your suggestions at the end of the question rather than just focusing on the causes and the problems, so it will definitely give a good impression as a positive attitude from the candidate's perspective. So these are two things which should be focused upon.
Thank you, sir. Next is the most frequently asked question that how should one prepare for ethics? Because aspirants take it very lightly at times, and this paper often occurs as a path breaker.
Hmm. Actually, I'll also give a brief details about my ethics marks. In 2017, I scored 81 marks. That was one of the major reasons I was not able to clear the mains examination. And in 2019, I scored around 130 odd marks. So this difference is actually very huge when you compare the total list marks. And one thing which I changed again in ethics was answer writing. What is happening that in ethics, we have this tendency, okay, this is very generic question. I'll attempt it on a day of the exam. So don't do this stuff. Attempt test papers of the ethics, 2 to 3 minimum test papers, especially the case studies, and again make a list of examples. We have certain fixed conflicts of interest which are generally being asked again and again. For example, public versus private duty, and personal versus duty, and something like these sorts, and tribal areas versus development. So these are the things which are generally being asked by the UPSC in one form or the other. So make a list of all those conflicts which are being asked and write the contemporary examples for the same. And one more thing I'll suggest that pick 5 to 6 great philosophers from the past like Socrates and Aristotle or Plato, and make a list of some of their what we can say is that their tendency or their what they actually give some quotes. So what was there, for example, someone asked for theological ethics, someone talked for deontology, excuse me, deontological ethics, and in that process we'll get to know like for example, there's a question which we can relate to Plato. So from the first line we can say, as per the Plato, this was his quote, and then in which direction we are moving the case study. So what it gives an impression, then again the answer is not very generic, and the candidate is able to connect it with some philosopher and then giving explanation on the basis of that philosophy which is already been prescribed that particular identity. And for generic questions, like for the first half of the ethics paper, I'll suggest that don't go for too many quotes. Like what is happening that people are like, I'll write this, I'll write that, and they are not being specific to the question. So ethics paper is again like 10 marker questions, and there's a very less minimum space for the same, and you have to be very specific. What you can do is to give examples for the same, and again make flow charts. So what was the difference between my strategy in 2017 and 19 was whatever I was writing in the form of flowcharts, making triangles or bullet forms, and uh, some frame or the other. Like I was able to express my whole answer in better presentation. So ethics is just you don't have to make your answers too generic. First is again example, second is presentation, and the third is quotes from the philosophers. So these are the three things which you can focus so that you can get at least 15 to 20 odd marks in ethics. And trust me, ethics is very important. Don't take it lightly. Minimum three tests should be given before you can go for actual exam, because case studies tend to take a lot of time. For first time when I gave the test paper, I realized that I am taking at least 5 to 7 minutes more than the actual case study time which should have been allotted to the same. So you have to just pace up your paper, and there have been many students who say I was able to just attempt 220 marks out of 250 in ethics, and then eventually they are marked out of 220. So you don't have to put yourself in that situation. Just practice ethics paper so that there can be better time management also. So ethics paper should be taken very seriously, especially for time management and for giving examples and philosophers' quotes.
Thank you, sir, for such a brilliant answer. So, moving on, for GS2, aspirants usually read Lakshmikant for polity. However, the good governance part is always left out. So, how to cover that?
I believe that Lakshmikant has a good potential to cover the polity questions, to some extent governance questions also. So what will happen that when we talk about the governance questions, they will be linked to contemporary times in one way or the other. They will not ask governance questions from 1960s or 1970s. So what we can do, we can arrange some good current affair material for the same. For example, in my case, I chose Visions Mains 365 as my source material for the governance, and I trusted the material again. As I said, like whatever you are reading, read it 10 times rather than reading 10 different materials. So at the end of the day, I read that Visions Mains 365, and I went through them thoroughly, and I read it again and again so that I can again able to link it with some contemporary example. So there are certain topics which are going on. For example, for this year, there might be some questions like the agriculture protests which are going on. So you need to link it up with contemporary times, and you need to realize governance questions are not being asked out of the box from the old times. So polity questions would be covered by Lakshmikant, and you can trust that source any day very well. And for governance, you can pick any institute's current affairs material, and the governance part would be covered by that. So you don't have to go deep into the governance factor and go the all static part again and again. So current affair would be good enough for governance.
Thank you, sir. We have also got a question that there are people who aren't science friendly. So, how should they cover science and tech part for GS3? Should they study it in detail?
Honestly, science and tech was also an issue for me because being from commerce background, so science and tech was not so friendly to me, honestly. So in that case also I limited myself to the type of questions which are being asked, and again when it comes to mains, for prelims you can ask, they sometimes ask about the basic science, DNA and etc. But when it comes to mains, they generally ask about the technologies which are currently in knowledge. For example, blockchain technology, you can say hyperloops, you can talk about nanotechnologies. So these are not something which is very rare or unheard. So in that sense, again, when it comes to science and technology, don't go for those topics which are old enough for the past 4 5 years. Go for the contemporary things. And again, the only source would be current affairs from good institute. And again, I referred Visions Main 365 for the same, and it almost covered all the topics. So for example, if in worst case scenario, you able to miss out some particular topic, then when you are writing test papers, you are able to get the same question and you are able to cover it to some extent. So science and tech, again, they are not asking too much specific science, and again they are talking about the topic, and they are talking about the implications or the challenges about the same. So the technological or the technical part, they are not asking you what is the technology itself. So they are basically talking about the impact of the technology on the society. So this can, if you have a brief knowledge about the technology and its impact, you can write down the answer. So what's your job is to just have a basic knowledge to what's the technology is all about and what are the benefits which are supposed to be penetrated into a society due to that. So current affair material would be able to solve that, and again you don't have to go very deep into that, and don't refer to the basic science and technology, for example DNA and stuff, when we talk about science and tech part, especially in mains.
So basically, it means that static is being linked with contemporary times.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, sir. Moving on to the optional part, sir, what was your optional subject and what was your strategy for it?
My optional subject was management since I've done MBA, so I prefer to choose my core subject as the optional. I know this is very unorthodox, and I would also suggest to all the candidates who are yet to decide about their optional that always go for the core subject because there are very much trends going in the market. For example, there is a very much trend like mathematics is very optional. Okay, if you are good at mathematics, you will be able to clear the mains. This is the same about sociology, and this was the same about anthropology at some point of time, few years. So, but still, I would say that go for the optional, which is a core graduation subject, because what happens in optional subjects, there are many questions which are, out of the box. So it is basically your core knowledge which you have studied over the large period of years which will come into picture rather than a knowledge of 1 year. And supposedly, if we get into this thing that okay, you will be able to attempt those questions which are being asked, but the one apprehension arises whether you will be able to compete to the specialized students of that field. So this is something which you need to take care of because at the end of the day you are competing. You are just not to pass out the exam. It's a competitive exam and you need to excel in one form or the other. So I'll mention my score since I chose management and was my core basic graduation subject. So I got around 280 marks, and 280 marks this year's optional is too high because the average marks has gone about 265. So actually optional was the only thing which saved me and got me a good rank. Otherwise I would have been ranking around 300 to 350. So please choose your optional very wisely and don't go for the popular subjects. I'll give you one my example also. When I started preparing for UPSC, public administration was very much popular those days. So in a haphazard manner, I also chose administration on the face value of the good teacher. But after taking classes for 2 to 3 months, I just saw one of the previous year papers and got to know I don't know anything about it. 3 months of classes and not even a single question I was able to deal with. So at that time, I decided that public administration is not my subject and I have to choose something which is my core knowledge. And what the basic advantage is that many of the topics are already covered in that scenario. For example, if you are choosing your graduation subject, even that if it's not that popular, but most of the syllabus would be known to you to some extent, and your job will be very well sorted at the end of the day. So this happened with me also, and when I talk about the strategy of the management, management has a lengthy syllabus, honestly. But if you just look at the syllabus given by the UPSC, they have given there are 12 heads. Paper one has six, paper two has six heads. So in every head, they have given detailed list of topics which have to be covered, and UPSC revolves around that topics only. So what you can do is to refer to the syllabus and then look for those topics in the books. So for management students, I would say in paper one, for marketing, you can refer to Kotler. For organizational behavior, the Robinson is a good book, and for human resource management, Ashwathappa. And what I'll suggest that Robinson for organizational behavior should be dealt throughout the book, and you should not skip major topics. And for Ashwathappa and Kotler for marketing, you should deal with the topics which are given in the syllabus. So I'll suggest that you just because those are 500 pages. So you can't learn everything at the end of the day, and you have to be again smart enough to choose the syllabus which is given. And to sort out your work, what you can do is to make a one page or two pager for every topic. I did it by myself. So when you are approaching towards your final examination, you just have to make a glance at all those one pages, and in 5 days you are able to go through all the revision work. And for paper two, I'll suggest focus on practicals. So this year, as I told again, 280 was my score. And what was the major reason for scoring that much high? That I attempted practicals. But again, practicals is like a double-edged sword. If you don't succeed, you get zero, and if you succeed, you get 15 out of 20. So you have to be very much careful about the same, and you have to choose and practice very well before making final call at the exam whether I should go for the practicals or not. And especially in paper one, cost of capital accounts, management accounting. So these are certain very easy practicals they generally are. They don't go for too much details, but once you practice, you are able to score good. And again, when it comes to presentation in on the day of the exam, again the same funda applies here also. They go for flowcharts and go for contemporary examples. In management, contemporary examples are very much important. You have to refer the recent corporate cases or the which are the issues which are going around in the business world or the government policies when it comes to business. So you have to be updated and you need to like write down those all those examples when it comes to answer writing. Only then again you will be able to go from generic to a specialized answer and able to fetch 1 to 2 marks extra in every question.
Thank you, sir. So, can you please mention the book list?
For management or for GS papers you are.
So, management.
Okay, so for when I'm talking about paper one, the first head is relatively easy, and you are able to cover the first head after completing all the different heads. Automatically, first head is completed. So for organizational behavior, it is Robinson. For marketing, it is Kotler. For human resource management, it is Ashwathappa. And for management accounting, you can refer to any book of any graduation level. So I was a Punjab University student, so I refer to the book from Punjab University, and it was able to clear the topics. And again, the same goes for cost capital. And for paper two, for quantitative techniques, it was Pearson, and for OM, it was Hazel. And for MIS, it was majorly the use of internet because you won't get details about the topics which are given in the UPSC at a specific point. So you need to just glance at the topics from the internet from different sources and make notes for the same. And from strategic management, again, you can refer to any book of the graduation level. What I was referring to, I referred a book by Shashi K. Gupta, and for Indian international business, you can refer the book by Arun Jain. And for government business interface, the most of the topics are being already covered in your GS preparation, so you don't have to go for some extra book. Whatever topics are left out in the syllabus, you can refer the internet for the same. So as just mentioned on the books, you will see that most of the topics are very much, easy or sorted out because the UPSC given detailed syllabus. So you need to just restrict yourself to the syllabus and you don't have to excel in one topic. For example, you don't have to read the 500 page of marketing book. Rather, you should go for the topics which are very much into the paper and refer to the previous year questions. Yes, I forgot to mention this. Previous year questions are very much important when it comes to management. I refer to the 5 to 6 year papers and trust me, three questions were repetitive in nature. Three. This is a huge number actually out of all
Yeah.
the questions. And if you'll able to go through all the previous year questions in the past 5 to 6 years, you will be able to get an idea of what kind of questions are being asked, what is the pattern, and what are the kind of examples you can give. And it gives an idea how to manage your time also if you practice. So honestly, I didn't go for any test series for the management, and it is not available also. So in the market, and since it is a very rare subject. So you have to prepare it by yourself. But honestly, like if you are a grad student from commerce or MBA, you should definitely go for management because it is very scoring and the syllabus is well sorted and you have to just look for the topics in previous year question and your work is done.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your book list with us. Next, sir, would you like to share your interview experience with us? It means like how's the atmosphere within those four walls?
Firstly, my interview was after this COVID period, so I have to wait a long before I get my turn. But yeah, one advice that I would like to give to all the candidates is that be honest and be humble. So there is a tendency, and this tendency existed in me also to a bit portray myself a very perfect character, which is not possible because you are trying to fool almost 200 years of experience sitting out there. So this is not possible for a 25-year-old candidate, and you should be honest because at least they appreciate your honesty. So you can say that if you have done something wrong and they have picked something wrong in your past, you can genuinely say that, okay, I'm a learning person and I have done this mistake in the past and I'll continue to learn and improvise upon it in the future. So, but don't try to justify yourself. This was my situation. At that point of time, I thought this was right. If you will accept, you will be regarded as a good listener, someone with a good adaptability, and someone who is keen to learn in future in order to be a better person. So, and secondly, be humble. So when you are into an argument with someone, okay, it is good to put your point after some, but after some time you need to realize that person who is giving a point is much more experienced and much more knowledgeable vis-a-vis you. And after 2 to 3 discussions, you should say, okay, I rest my point and I'll study more about it and I'll definitely consider the viewpoints given by you, sir, and I'll upgrade my knowledge. So these are two things which are very crucial when it comes to an interview, because as soon as you jump against these characters or traits, they'll fetch you very bad marks. They'll give you the worst of the marks because first of all, it gives a impression of you having attitude, ego, a bad listener, and in a position to justify yourself when you are wrong. So these are not the traits which they are looking for in a civil servant, and these two aspects should be done with very carefully. And when it comes to the preparing for the interview, I'll suggest that you should look for your study material as per the level you go. So for example, if I am from Ludhiana, so I have to learn maximum about Ludhiana, then a little less about Punjab, a little lesser about North India, and a little lesser about India, and a very minimum about the world at that point of time. So what is happening that we are generally into national issues and are not least concerned about the issues which are going in the local level. But majority of the questions which were being asked by me were related to Ludhiana. For example, Ludhiana is an industrial city, so they asked about the situation of industries after the COVID period. What about the migrant laborers? What about the tussle of agriculture and free subsidy of power going in Ludhiana? And what about the status of solar pumps and solar panels going about in Ludhiana? So job loss in Ludhiana, work from home in Ludhiana. So you need to realize majority of the questions were related to me on the basis of my hobby and my surroundings. So I'll suggest that as far as you going at the level, you need to prepare lesson and lesson and have to prepare the most at your immediate surroundings. And prepare your hobbies too well. Don't write anything which you have not done to just to show up. Or for example, people like reading books and you have just read 2 books throughout your career. So this is not something which should be done. You should be, honest enough to put the right information in the DAF, and you should prepare well for the interview also. Don't take them lightly, because I have seen that 10 marks ups and down in the interview will make a difference of minimum 60 to 70 ranks in the whole list. And 60 to 70 ranks can be IPS, can be IAS, can be lead to IT and customs. So this is the major thing. Be honest, be humble, and prepare your immediate surroundings to the best possible manner rather than going at national issues more. And prepare about yourself. This is very important. And this is something which need not be mentioned, but still I'm doing it because there is a tendency to miss out that aspect.
That was truly an honest and apt answer, sir. Thank you. So, with this, we give our viewers the chance to ask their pressing questions in the comments below.
Yeah, sure.
Meanwhile, I would like to tell some programs our organization is carrying out. So, we have a current affairs program that is 365 for 365, wherein we compile all the important news and facts from the Hindu, the Indian Express, PIB, and all the important government websites, and we provide it at a bare minimum of rupee 1, that is rupees 365 for an year, 65% of which is donated to the needy students. We also have a Telegram group, serving officers being part of it, and they are sharing their encyclopedic knowledge with us at no cost. And we are generally carrying out the weekly webinars. So for that you can use our Instagram page and also a YouTube channel. So that's it. So we have a question. Do you prefer note making?
Note making when it comes to newspapers, I would say don't do it. Honestly, when you start it, so there's a very much buzz in the market. Okay, read newspapers and make notes for the same. So I'll suggest 4 hours of your precious time has gone just for the newspapers. And I used to do it also, but at the end of the day, I never refer them, because later you realize there is a better ready-made material available in the market. Pick one of those and you will be able to get all the material which you require for preparing the UPSC. What we need to learn is that we don't have to get too much fussy about the process. We need to get the results, because at the end of the 2 to 3 year preparation, the knowledge level of all the candidates is at the par level. I genuinely believe 127 rank and the 527 rank are on the same level when it comes to knowledge. It's just a matter of day, the preparation or the answer writing or the presentation things which comes into picture, and how you better utilize your time. So please don't make notes for the newspaper. And yes, when it comes to GS and other subjects, I already mentioned that do your homework when it comes to statistics about the various topics, and do your homework of note making as per your optional. So for optional, it is important because there is a lengthy syllabus and you don't get an opportunity to revise before the exam. So if you want to make a full revision, make notes for the same as per the time available. So don't utilize too much time, and note making should be done specifically to the specific situation.
Thank you, sir. I think so we have answered almost all the questions. So, sir, any parting message for our viewers you would like to give?
Okay, message would be like to be patient enough, because I myself have seen after two attempts like there was a tendency to leave the exam. But now after investing 3 years, I feel that it was totally worthy, and the things which you get in return has actually made me realize, okay, the 4 years which I've invested in UPSC is nothing vis-a-vis all that which I'm getting right now. So this is a very huge motivation, I would say. Be patient enough and be consistent enough, because ultimately it will definitely pay you back at the end of the day. It might take time in some of the cases. I have met students in the academy whose it was like sixth attempt, even ninth attempt, and the patience they have put in on so many years have eventually paid them back. And it gradually, because you have accumulated so much of knowledge out of the process, that if you are able to just put it on the day of the exam, you will crack it. It's nothing like a big who like, okay, it's too tough, it's too lengthy, it's a very cumbersome process. It's nothing like that. Go step by step, be patient and dedicated enough, and don't go complacent. For example, if you have cleared prelims, don't think like, okay, I have cleared the UPSC. Go from the very next day of the prelims, start answer writing and do your homework before the results come. And again, the presentation factor is very important, because I have mentioned this again and again, the knowledge is at par level. What makes you different from others is the presentation and the value addition. So these are two things which are counted at the end of the day, and you should be focusing on that rather than going for very different materials, reading 10 different sources. Go for one particular source and read it again and again, and make some value addition to that.
So, with this, we come to the end. I really want to say a massive thank you for giving us your valuable time, pitching insights and brilliant ideas for Main Strategy 2021. Thank you so much for joining with us, sir. We're
Welcome,
also
ma'am.
grateful.
And I hope like
Yep,
this session works for at least 10 students and my job is done definitely.
definitely, sir. It's going to work for more even. So, we are also grateful to our wonderful audience for being patient and being awesome at the same time. So, thank you, sir. Wishing you all the very best for the life ahead.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Goodbye.
Bye, ma'am.